Good morning. This is Mike Houston with your Saturday morning weather hazard briefing for southeast Idaho. Taking a look at satellite imagery this morning, we see a low pressure system dropping south along the British Columbia coast with Pacific moisture beginning to rotate in off the coast into Oregon and Northern California. Regional radar loop was showing some scattered shower activity in western Idaho. Some of that was already beginning to spread into the central mountains here this morning. Looking at our forecast charts, here we are this morning. At least for 6 a.m. this morning, the models are indicating that low dropping down towards Vancouver Island and moisture spreading inland. Some light precipitation working into the central mountains and some flurries falling out of some low clouds that we have lingering across the northeast highlands here this morning. By noon today, the precipitation should spread deeper into southeast Idaho with starting to see some accumulations, at least 1 to 2 inches possibly here along the Sawtooth Range. Some lighter amounts as you get into the interior valleys of the Central Mountains, and upwards of an inch and a half here across the eastern highlands. And then by late this afternoon, we should see some snowfall across most of southeast Idaho. Accumulations generally running an inch and a half in most of these higher elevation places, and less than an inch in the Snake River Plain. Daytime highs today generally running the teens to mid-20s, so cold enough to support snow in all regions. And our snow total for snowfall today, running up to 11 o'clock this evening, would be about 2 to 4 inches here across the higher elevations of the Central Mountains, and similar amounts here across the eastern highlands. We advance to Sunday. We are now looking at a 24-hour snow total for ending on Sunday, and again, we see very moist conditions spreading around this low that looks like it's going to be anchored here for a few days. Upwards of 12 or more inches here in the Boise Mountains, much of that bleeding over into the Stanley Basin, Galena Summit region, and lighter amounts here in the Snake River Valley. Temperatures will be moderating some, so it'll help to keep the accumulations down here within the Snake River Plain, and then upwards of 10 inches here across the eastern highlands. Daytime highs on Sunday, generally running in the 20s in the mountains and 30s here in the Snake River Plain, maybe close to 40 here in the eastern Magic Valley. We should have some winds accompanying that storm system here on Sunday. Here we are looking at wind gusts generally running from 30 to 40 miles per hour across a broad area of southeast Idaho. So any loose snow that we have will certainly be blown around, causing issues with blowing and drifting snow, especially for our highway maintenance crews. The snowfall total, 24-hour snowfall total for Sunday, we're looking at upwards of a foot of snow here in the Central Mountains, and similar readings here from Island Park south through at least Palisades, and then some lighter amounts as you get into the southeast highlands and Snake River Plain, where temperatures should be a little warmer and should help mitigate some of the accumulations there. Little changes on Monday. We still have that low here, lots of moisture spreading in, models showing upwards of 20 inches of snow here up towards Stanley and bleeding over into the Stanley Basin, and upwards of a foot or more in the eastern highlands. We are beginning to see some snow making its way down into craters of the Moon area in those places, and even into the southeast highlands. Once again, temperatures may be marginal enough here in the Snake River Plain to help prevent some accumulation, especially along the main interstate corridor. Here we are looking at the high temperatures from Monday, continuing to see mid to upper 20s here in the mountains and 30s here in the Snake River Plain. Maybe a little optimistic to say 45 down here in the Magic Valley, but that's what we got in the forecast. Again, we should see wind on Monday. So here we are looking at wind gusts again, 30 to 40 miles per hour across a broad area of southeast Idaho. So any loose snow that we have will, again, be causing blowing and drifting snow issues. Snow totals by the end of Monday for 24 hours, once again, upwards of a foot or more here in the Central Mountains and Eastern Highlands. Snake River Plain right along the interstate corridor, generally less than an inch, but as I mentioned before, over here in the craters to the moon and Arco region, maybe seeing some accumulations in that region where temperatures remain a little colder. Advancing to Tuesday, here we are looking at a 24-hour precipitation total. I lost the snow graphic, so I had to switch over to liquid precipitation. But if you just take this decimal point, move it one position to the right, for instance, this 1 inch of liquid becomes 10 inches of snow as a rough guesstimate. So we are looking at another round of fairly heavy precipitation in the Central Mountains and along the Eastern Highlands, including the Southeast Highlands, here on Tuesday. Again, temperatures running in the 20s to lower 30s across the mountainous regions, and possibly upper 30s and 40s here in the Snake River Plain, which would make it difficult, I think, to see large accumulations here along the interstate corridor with the warmer temperatures. And we'll probably see some melting as well. So in this region here that I'm outlining with the cursor, we may actually see some flash melting and some ponding in low-lying areas, causing some flooding issues. Once again, seeing some wind going on here on Tuesday, not quite as dramatic as what we had seen in the previous 2 days, but still enough to cause some blowing and drifting snow. And then the snow totals for Tuesday, upwards of a foot again here in the Central Mountains and along the Wyoming border. And accumulations running upwards of 3 inches here in the craters of the moon to Arco region, and less than an inch along the interstate corridor here. So that leaves us with a number of warnings and advisories. The warnings are in the pink colors here. So we got the Stanley Basin and running from Haley up through Stanley that is in a warning. Eastern Highlands from Island Park down to Soda Springs, including the northern Wasatch. And then these blue colors are indicative of areas where we have advisories. And we may not be expecting large accumulations in these areas, but certainly the combination of some snow and residual snow and the wind will likely cause some issues in this region during the time frame of these warnings and advisories, which begin tonight and continue through Tuesday. So a long duration warning event is in store for us this week. Advancing to Wednesday, it just doesn't stop. That low remains off the coast. Tons of moisture still pouring into the region. Upwards of 10 inches of snow here in the Central Mountains on Wednesday, and similar amounts across the Eastern Highlands. Temperatures still running in the 30s in the mountains and upper 30s and to mid 40s here in the Snake River Plain. So probably not going to accumulate much here along the interstate corridor, but certainly get off into craters of the moon area, and they're cold enough, obviously, to accumulate some snow. Advancing to Thursday, now we're starting to see that low pressure system at least advancing inland in towards the Panhandle. Still seeing copious amounts of precipitation here, upwards of 8 to 10 inches here in the Central Mountains and Eastern Highlands. A little less going on here in the Snake River Plain, but certainly going to be windy on Thursday. And then that low pressure system advancing off into southern Canada, the upper Midwest, with drying conditions beginning to work into the region on Friday for a quick break. I do want to draw your attention to this mess here off the California coast, which is the next storm system that will be working northeast towards the coastline by Saturday, and we'll see some of that precipitation spreading back into us. So look for Friday to be the one day you have a break, and then we'll be back into some winter weather highlights probably for next weekend. That's all I had for you here this morning. If you had any additional comments or questions, please give us a call here at the number on the screen. Thank you.